Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Let's Play. So today we are taking a look at Moonstone from Goblin King Studios, a new 2 to 4 player character-driven skirmish game for 3x3 tables, a kitchen table game, using some beautiful miniatures that basically answer the question, what would happen if Terry Gilliam and Brian Froud got together on a weekend, got drunk, and wrote a miniature game. So Moonstone has a beautiful hardcover rulebook, but what we're going to be going through today is actually the 2-player starter set and its contents, and playing a game with it between the goblins and the humans. So it's set in an imaginary continent hundreds of years after several different wars, and it basically brings together the tension between the Dominion and the Commonwealth. Your races in the backstory are made up of sort of very whimsical creatures. So the Commonwealth is gnomes and giants and humans, and the Dominion in this case is going to be goblins, fairies, and trolls. Now, your faction allows you to pull characters. When I say it's a character-driven skirmish game, that means that there's not a lot of tinkering in who the characters are. It's more about how you recruit them and the combinations they can create there in your troop. And there's no point cost. So it's just its standard game is 6 characters. You'll be playing with 4 out of the starter set, and there's lots of expansions that add 3 characters at a time to each of the different factions. So for instance, I have the Dominion, Goblin and Human expansions that I'm painting up to play some bigger games, and they add more just options as you select your troops. So with a standard game size being 6, as you add players, that number drops. So for a 3-player game, you're going to have 5. For a 4-player game, for a 3-player game, you're going to have 4, and for a 4-player game, you're going to have 3 each. And you are fighting for Moonstone. That is the MacGuffin in this game. There is a magical energy that basically leaches out of the ground at night, and troops of characters will go off and fight for it, and dawn basically dissolves it. So you have to try and get this stuff, pull it out of the ground. That is the victory condition, who controls the most Moonstone for the end of any given game. And it has a depth, basically, that you're trying to dig it up from. And yeah, get it away before dawn, so after 4 turns. So let's go through the starter set contents. I'm going to show it all to you, give you a basic rundown of how the cards and the mechanics work, and then we'll play through a game, me and Jason, between the goblins and the humans, the Commonwealth and the Dominion. So here's the Moonstone 2-player starter set, laid out in some of my terrain here so you can get an idea of what comes in the box. You get 2 factions. You get the goblins over here. They are led by the Goblin Knight, Doug the Flatulent, who is literally riding a pug. You have a exclusive to the starter set, Grub, who is a goblin who accidentally turned himself into a cockroach. So you can see here he's grown extra eyes and had a bad day at the wizard school. You get the Vicious Midget, who is exactly what he sounds like. He is a plate-armored midget that likes to kill people. And you get Beaky Bobby, who's the local healer. You go to him if you got a rash or something wrong with you, and he gives you the Ooga Booga with his his coat there to try and find what you want to buy to cure your ailments. So you can see what I'm talking about when I say Brian Froud. They're very if you remember, there's a book series from the 70s and 80s called Fairies, Gnomes, and Giants. He did all the art direction for movies like Labyrinth and The Dark Crystal. You can always tell a Brian Froud goblin. These are very Brian Froud goblins. And here's Doug the Flatulent with his excellent pug, who likes to dig up Moonstone, and is also his horse, I guess, in this case. And then over here, we get the humans. We have Baron von Fancy Hat, who, when I say the Terry Gilliam influence, has a very Baron von Munchausen vibe to him. We have Eric the Brave, who is his squire, the local squire, does all the carrying of weapons, and fights with his cool wooden sword there, and has possibly the coolest kid face I've ever painted. He's just got a great, just tons of expression in character. Flintlock the sniper with his rifle. And Friar Flavius, this is the human exclusive, and the one and only time in my painting life that I will ever paint cankles. I don't know. This was the first non-Nurgle miniature with cankles I ever painted, as disturbing as that is. And so you can see here, there's a lot of like just fun and whimsy in the miniatures. The sculpts are gorgeous, and these are all in white metal with 30mm, 40mm lip bases. So they come ready to build and paint out of the box. And are just in little baggies, a lot like Infinity miniatures. You also get your Moonstones, which are these D4s. I'll explain a little bit more about how you grow Moonstones later, but they'll be on the table as objectives. Energy tokens, which are just some bingo chips. Track your energy. A nice quick ref card for playing the game. Actually, I didn't need to open the rulebook after reading through it once and then playing and then having this. I had all the information I needed. Some D6s, but they're actually only really used to resolve turn order. So there's 4 of them, so that if there's 4 players, they can all roll off at the same time. Dry erase marker, a little tape measure. You get your events and agendas. And now these are an optional rule, but I do highly recommend them. They add an extra dimension to the game. You can choose There's like a blind bid system for them, basically. The agendas will give you extra skills for your warband. So for instance, some of them can only be taken by certain factions. So Commonwealth only, Dominion only, and there'll be more as new factions come out, but the starter set comes with the specific ones for each faction. Raiding Party, Crazy Town for the Dominion, Erudition, and Tavern Gossip, and then Force March and Defy the Odds can be for everybody. And then you get your events, which are like once per game buffs. So for instance, things like steal a Moonstone from somebody, Dawnlight Robbery, Miraculous Cover, get all your wounds back. And the way you do is you roll off to bid, and whoever wins the roll gets to pick the first one of these. Then the other player picks both that they want, and then the first picker picks last, basically, for their second one. And you get one of each game, each player does. Get your stat cards. So here's Baron Von Fancy Hat. Now, the stat cards have some really, like, the basic thing you're tracking on here is your combat damage, so how much damage you have. You have two types of abilities: passive, that are on all the time, and then active ones that you spend energy to do. You've got your any arcane abilities you have at the bottom line, and then you've got your basic stats and your keywords. Keywords are only really important for abilities. They usually proc off things like Noble, for instance. Eric the Squire has a bunch of abilities that affect nobles. Your melee, how many melee cards you draw when you fight, your range of your melee attacks, and then your arcane. So your arcane is the cards you draw when you do your arcane action, and all science is considered arcane in this, which I think makes a lot of sense because it's not very well understood. And your evade is if someone targets you with an arcane ability, how many less or more cards they draw. So Flower Fabius, for instance, is big. He gives you an extra card when you do an arcane thing against him, because he's easy to hit with arcane stuff. Whereas I think Eric the Squire, yeah, he's a little dodgier. He's -1 arcane when you attack him. Then you have your damage boxes, and they also track how much energy you get. So you track them right to left, and you fill them in. That's how much damage you take before you die. But it's also how much energy you generate is the blue boxes. So as you get more injured, you take less actions during the turn. And then finally you have your signature move. So it uses a very interesting melee deck that you reshuffle after every engagement to blind bid moves. And you and your opponent are basically doing fight moves to each other, and you have to try and anticipate what your opponent might do. So everybody has a signature move. They can replace a certain type of common move in the deck with that. So whenever he plays like Falling Swing, I can flip the card and replace its effects with this one, Master Strike, instead, which is pretty cool. So get your cards for the goblin side of the deck, and you get your melee decks, which are, I think, 18 cards of common attacks. And there's 3 of each, sorry. There's 6 different moves, I think, 3 of each move for 18 cards total. And you and your opponent will draw these and blind bid them to each other. So whenever you play a move, and you compare it to the move your opponent does, and it'll give you the results, how much damage each of you take or don't take. And there's also things like critical hits. If you have the same card in your hand more than once, if you play it and succeed in doing damage, you can stack the same card to multiply its effects and do like a better hit. And then also there's these yellow circles. They have like what's called a follow-up. You can play another legal card out of your hand if you get a follow-up to do even more damage. So it's pretty neat. Your arcane deck is, again, a blind bid system to resolve arcane effects. So it's a bit less involved than this one is, because you don't have to anticipate what kind of move your opponent might do. It's just, is your opponent lying or not? So there's 3 colors. I'll use Vicious Midget as an example. Actually, we'll use Beaky Bobby. So he has a healing spell. There's blue, green, and purple. And when you draw your hand, you draw up to your arcane stat in cards, and your opponent usually always gets 6. And the reason he has 6 is to see if you're lying or not out of this deck. Because what you'll do is you'll pick a card from your hand that you drew and say what it is out loud. Your opponent can say if it's true or if it's bluffing. So even if you don't get a card you need, you can maybe bluff if your opponent believes that it's not that it could be in your hand, and get the effects off. So for instance, if he plays a blue card, he gets to heal someone within 2 inches, X, which is whatever this is, the card value, +1 wounds. But there's only so many of each card. There's a few 1s, a couple 2s, and then 1 3 usually of each color. So if you say I've got the 3 of a color, you really don't, you're bluffing, and your opponent has it in his hand, he's gonna call your bluff. Now, if he calls your bluff and it was true, you get to actually take the action again for free. So like Beaky Bobby could chain a bunch of free heals if he's got a handful of blue cards and your opponent keeps saying that you're bluffing. But if you were bluffing, your opponent gets to deal one of the cards from his hand. And there's cards in here called catastrophes. They're kind of like the Black Joker in Malifaux, where if you are caught bluffing, basically, the catastrophe then bounces stuff back to you. So Beaky Bobby, if he catastrophes, he takes 2 wounds when he tries to heal. He like slips and like spills acid on himself because your opponent deals with the catastrophe. A great quick ref rulebook, and this guy right here basically is the core rules of the game without all the additional model stats. That's the basic difference between this and the hardcover rulebook. The hardcover rulebook is gorgeous, and it includes all of the statistics for the models in the first wave. So everything that was done during the crowdfunding, because this was a crowdfunding game, independently released, you get the stat lines for. So if you want to see all the models in the game, and it's beautifully full color, lots of gorgeous artwork. You can see here beautiful photography of all the other characters. There's one of the giants, there's the troll in the background there, and all the star set guys as well. Lots of great line art, all the backstory and stuff. And you can see here some of the factions we don't have, like the Dominion fairies. And I think if you're familiar with this art, you'll see the Brian Froud influence in this stuff as we go through it. More goblins, more characters for the humans, and all the gnomes, who are basically like the dwarves of this. It's gnomes instead. And yeah, so there's the hardcover rulebook. Beautifully realized, but you don't need it to play. You can just get this instead. This is just really handy if you want to look at all the stat lines for all the models. And here's some of the expansion stuff I painted too. Won't use it today in the Let's Play, but I've started painting Tumbledown Street, which is the human expansion. So here's Fritz, he's a human mercenary. There's also Quack, who's like a crazy scientist doctor guy, and Agatha the Tavern Frau, who's Fritz's girl and owns the local tavern as well. Then I painted some of the goblins. I painted, this might be my favorite name. His name is Boom Boom McBoom, goblin farmer with a blunderbuss. And then C6 Stew, who's an old sea shanty lad who is not feeling so well. Shabaroon, who's half a mushroom now, grown into a mushroom. So there's the example of the starter set. Let's get up and play a game. So the first step in a game of Moonstone is setting up the terrain. Now, it's a 3x3 play area, and the one suggestion, besides just setting up in a pleasing manner, is to make sure there's no terrain within 6 inches of the middle, or 3 or 4 inches of the middle, for when we grow the Moonstones. Now, after we've done that, we choose troops. Of course, we're using troops from the starter set, so I'm using Doug the Flatulent, Vicious Midget, Beaky Bobby, and Grub against Friar Flavius, Baron Von Fancy Hat, Flintlock, and Eric the Squire. Then we're going to select events and agendas. Now, it's optional, but we will do it today just to show you how it works. And Jason and I will roll off to see who is first or second pick. All right, so Dyson to see who is first, and we try not to do that again. I got a potato. Yep, so you get to pick first. Or pick second, it's up to you. If there's one you really want. Okay. Force March, that's gonna give anyone with the soldier tag +2 to their jog move, which is their free basic movement. So now I got to pick one of each of these. And then you get to pick from what's left. I decided to take ninja reactions once per game. If I would take enough wounds to go to action, I just reduce all the wounds from that action to 0 and I live. And then raiding party, it's Dominion only, so it's only available to the baddies and the goblins. The first melee attack each character you control makes in a turn deals +2 damage. So I get to be extra vicious during a turn, and that one's only available to Dominion. So you, as your second one, picked Miraculous Recovery, played at the beginning of the replenish step. Target character gets all his wounds back. So you're about to die, and it's before you replenish all of your energy, you're going to get all your wounds back on a character, which is awesome. And then Force March, soldiers you control gain +2 jog. So a normal base move is 4 inches. You get to do 6-inch moves with all the people with the soldier tag, which is Eric and Flintlock. Grow Moonstones, and it uses the very complicated method of hold your hand with 5 Moonstones, because we're playing a 4-character game, above the table, and drop them. All right, now if either character doesn't like the drop, we can redrop it once. So what's happened is they've ended up kind of on this side, but when we roll to pick table edges, it can be any table edge that we're going across from. So if we go lengthwise, we'd be walking through the Moonstones, basically. I'm going to say we redrop, mostly because these are all really easy to pick up. The other thing you get for your Moonstones is a depth value. That's how many actions it takes to dig it out of the ground. And there's 2 1s, 2 2s, and a 3. Which means these are going to be really easy to grab. So I'm going to do a redrop. Each character can say redrop, or each player can say it once. So if you don't like my drop, my redrop, you can say to redrop it too. And they're going to go across the table. And they're still really easy to pick up. 1 1 2 2. You gonna redrop them? Okay. So this is final. No, we don't get to change this afterwards. And also picking up a bunch of D4s off the table, as Jason's demonstrating, is obnoxiously hard. Try and back in the middle a little bit. There you go, yeah. Ugh, okay, so now it's super hard. So 1 1 2 4 4. Stuck with them there. So we dice off now for table edge, and you can choose to either be the early bird. If you're the early bird, you get to deploy your first model within 10 inches of an edge, or have the initiative. If you have the initiative, you go first in the first turn. In the second turn, you get +2 to see who goes first. In the third turn, you get +1. I'm going to choose to be the early bird and take this side, because obviously there's tons of Moonstones over here, and the game's going to last 4 turns. But you're going to probably go first every round. Means we're gonna deploy within 10, so 10-inch deployment zones. And I'm gonna place Beaky Bobby down. That's 8, so just 2 more. And you go right there. Fire Flavius, he's gonna go over there. She's gonna do Flintlock because he just realized that that guy will slow down crazy if he picks up a Moonstone. So I go back and forth. We'll be back after deployment. All right, and so we're deployed. I've got Beaky Bobby, Doug the Flashman, Vicious Midget, and the grub on the left there. You have Fire Flavius hanging out with the Baron Von Fancy Hat and Eric the Squire, and then on the right you got Flintlock. So you automatically have the first turn on turn 1. So now what we do is first each turn is replenish step. So everybody gets back their starting amount of, because they're all unwounded, energy. So Beaky Bobby's gonna get 4 tokens, Grub's gonna get 4 tokens, Doug's gonna get 4 tokens, and the Vicious Midget only gets 3. Now we're gonna activate. Now everything you do, except for your base movement of jog, which is 0 energy, and it only happens once per turn, costs energy. So you can jog for 4 inches, and you don't get to jog through difficult terrain or up and down things. You can traverse for 2. That's to like go over a fence, climb up and down a level of elevation. Make a melee attack costs 1. Make an active ability, so it's any of your active abilities that are on your card. So for instance, I can do stand back or foul gases on Beaky Bobby. That'll cost whatever's in brackets there. Arcane ability, same thing, whatever costs in brackets. Harvest costs 1. If you're within 1 inch of one of these, you reduce its depth value by 1. And if it ever goes to 0, then you pick it up. So step, those are additional movements, and they're 1 inch movements with no restrictions. So it means that if you're engaged in melee, you can step to get out. If you jog while in melee, you have to get closer to the person that you're in melee with. And you use steps to do things like walk through difficult terrain. So like things like water and stuff, you have to make 1 inch increment moves through. So it's a bit difficult to move once you've done stuff. Now when you're carrying a Moonstone, you also are reducing your base jog down to 2 inches, which is why he wanted Flintlock to go pick this one up, because his jog will go from 6 to 4 as opposed to 4 to 2. Go first. So Flintlock's gonna do his jog. He can jog 6, and as long as he ends within 1 of that thing, he can dig it up if he wants. Perfect. And then spend 1 energy to reduce that by 1, so it goes on your card now, and you're considered to have captured that Moonstone. It's placed in base contact, and whoever holds the most of these at the end of 4 turn wins, so grabbing 1 early on is a good idea. Now he still has 2 energy left, so he's gonna take a step. He's gonna shoot a gun. As you do, who's gonna shoot at?
Beaky Bobby over there.
You can measure any range at any time. You're good. We're gonna do an arcane duel. So what happens is you get your arcane stats. So his arcane stat is 3 in arcane cards. Now I'm gonna have Jason do all the shuffling here of the decks because obviously I'm doing this one-handed. Now I have an evade stat of -1 because I'm little. So even though normally Jason would get 3 cards in his arcane hand, he's only gonna get 2 because I'm harder to hit. Now I always get 6. So now what Jason's gonna do is when he looks at his ability, it's gonna have a color value. I think yours is blue, yeah? Yep. For the gun, and you're gonna put a card down face down and tell me its color and value. Now I get to look at my hand and see what I have. So I get to identify out of how many cards. I think there's 18 possible cards. There's like 6 blue cards. How many blue cards? There's 3 1s, 2 2s, and a 3.
Sorry, green on the.
Oh, green on this one. So I know that these green cards are in my hand. Right, of the 3 1s, 2 2s, and a 3, I know that I'm holding these ones. So when he makes his play, I'll know if he's bluffing or not. You have 2 cards, you can put 1 down.
From 1 green.
So now I'm gonna say that you're bluffing, because if you weren't bluffing, there's no downside from this for me. So now normally you get to take an arcane action again, but his ability is only once per game until he reloads it. So there's no downside for me calling a bluff here. Are you bluffing? It's a catastrophe card. So I would get to replace. So now if I wanted to, I could replace this with one of my greens. I knew I had a 1 green and a 2 green in my hand. Or if I had a catastrophe card, I'd play it with that. If I play a card that's a color he doesn't use, it just cancels the effect of the gun. So you got a catastrophe, which means your gun misfires and you take what, 2 damage?
The gun cannot be used for the rest of the game.
Oh no, you blow the barrel up. So now we put these back in the deck and this will get reshuffled the next time someone uses an arcane ability. That was hilarious. Got no energy left, which means it's over to me. We're gonna have Grub go. So Grub's gonna jog 4. And Grub's gonna be, he's my wizard. He's got a little 2-inch spray attack with his weed killer there. But what he's gonna do right now is he's just gonna spend 4 action to dig on this thing 4 times and put it on his card. His jog is reduced to 2 for the rest of the game because he is now carrying a Moonstone. Back to you, he gets nominated a card. Now if we have a different number of models, you do get a number of passes for activations equal to the difference in models. So who are you gonna activate?
Start over here.
Good old Eric the Squire.
You gotta run to there.
Jog 6, okay.
And then he doesn't have anything else to do, so
he doesn't want to give extra energy to the noble. So for 2 actions, you're gonna give 2 actions to Baron Von Fancy Hat. So he's gonna, sorry, one action. No, he's a noble. It's 2. 1 energy to a soldier or 2 energy to a noble, because he goes, my hero. And this is how Baron von Hatzibat basically like tools up to become super huge. And because you don't need it to jog anyway, or to run anyway, you can move 6 with your jog because of your bonus ability from your agenda. And you still have 1 to make a step. There you go. You move 7 total. Vicious Midget. I think it's time to go. No, it's not. It's time for Doug to go. Doug's going to go. So Doug's going to go. He's going to make his base jog, which is 4 inches to the side of this. Whoop. And then he has a special rule. The puppy likes to dig. So I'm going to spend 1 to dig, but instead of digging it down by 1, I get to flip an arcane card and do it that many times instead. From the arcane deck, how many levels do I dig it out? 1. So it's still just 1. So it goes down by 1. And then I have 3 actions left. Might as well charge. So for 2 actions, I get to make a charge action, which means I get to make a 4-inch move. And if my next action's a melee attack, it does +2 damage. So I'm going to move 4 and move up to here. Now I have a 3-inch melee range. So I'm actually going to move back to my maximum melee range and make a lance attack. So this, if I land this, it's going to be crazy because I'm +2 from raiding party to my damage and +2 from this charge. So now when you do a melee attack, the active player gets their melee stat +2 in cards. So Doug's melee stat is 4, +2 is 6. And then you get your melee stat, which is 3 in cards. Now, if we were both engaging each other, because this guy's got a 1-inch melee and I've got a 3-inch melee, we could both even do damage during this. This is just a straight-up tactical engagement. But because you're outside my melee range, if you do damage me, it gets reduced to dash, because you can't swing that far. Last action, so go ahead and deal out 6 to him and 3 for yourself. 6 for me, 3 for you. Yeah, there you go. That's okay. Whoops. So I'm gonna just do this over here on camera so you guys can see. So cards basically are all based on what your opponent does. So I have access to one more. I have access to these cards, and I have to pick 1 and place it face down for Jay to basically bid a card against 2. Now, I know Eric is going to try and do block cards here, so I'm going to look for things that are effective against blocks, such as low guard and high guard. So I need my cards that do damage on this side are the ones I want to play. And I think we're probably going to play this one. Drop that down, and you drop 1 down too, and then we flip at the same time to compare what it is. So you're doing sweeping cut to my thrust. So I do 2 damage against, where is it? Sweeping cut. I do no damage at all, and you actually get to do a follow-up if you want. So because I do dash damage, I take 0 damage, and you can follow up with rising attack, but you're out of range. So normally if he was in melee range, he would compare that to my thrust and do 1 damage without taking any damage himself. But because the melee range of you is only 1 inch, it's reduced to dash. That was good, because if I'd even done 0 damage, you would have taken 4 damage there because of my bonus damage. So go ahead and shuffle the deck up again for our next engagement, and it's over to you. Here you go. You can do the Baron, do the Friar.
I shall do the Friar.
Make his 4. Now he doesn't get the bonus because he's not a soldier, so he goes 4 inches. And then he's got 3 energy with which to go walkabout.
So he's gonna just move up 2 more.
Okay.
And then he is going to cast... Oh, sorry, move up 1 more.
Yep.
And cast Healing on Flintlock.
Cool. Try and get some damage back because he broke his gun. Take an arcane test. You get, I think your arcane is 3.
Yep.
He's gonna be trying to play blues here, and you're gonna play this one face down. And what is it?
Sorry, 1 blue.
1 blue. I'm gonna call a bluff. And it is... Ah, he had it, okay. So, because there was only... I had 2 of them, which meant there's only 1 more in the whole deck. So you get that plus, I think it's X plus, how much damage? 1, so 2 damage healed, and he goes back to full. Because you played that card, and I called a bluff, but it wasn't a bluff, you get to cast that again for free if someone's injured. I don't think anyone's injured, so it doesn't really matter. But if you want to, you could play another card and bluff or not. So I don't think we need to in this case, because the only potential is that I call your bluff and you might have a catastrophe. And that was all you had left in your hand there too. Bobby's going to go. He's going to jog 4. Get over to here. Over to here actually. And then he's going to do his digging up. Now he's a weakling. It costs him 2 energy instead of 1 to dig. Oh, Beaky Bobby, you're so bad at grabbing Moonstone. And he'll reduce that to 0, put it on his card. And he doesn't need to heal anybody right now, so he's pretty happy where he is. He's not going to do any active abilities, so he can just use his last 2 to take steps. You don't have a gun anymore. We're just going to step sideways back to these guys. Hold all the Moonstones. All the Baron's turn. So the Baron can jog 4, and then he still has 4 left to make steps if he wants. And he does have a 2-inch melee, So if you get your 8-inch total move, I don't think it'll take. You could get in, and you might go first. You have +2 to go first next turn, and you could go fight Doug. Gonna go for the engagement. Might as well. That's you all done, I think. It's just the vicious midget left to engage in high amounts of midjitsu. And he has the 4-inch jog and 3 energy to go 7. Do I want to try and vicious midget you? We're gonna go in behind though, so that we can get ready to fight later on. Hide behind Doug. Round. So all the energy's been spent. We go into end phase. So any end phase effects resolve, and we're in round 2 now. So first we roll to see who goes first. You get +2 to this because you have the initiative, because that was the early bird. And you got to pick sides. So you get a 5, we tie, roll again. Relevant, you get a 5, you win. So you have first initiative this turn, we replenish. Everybody goes back to full energy.
So start with Eric. He is going to
take his jog.
Do a jog.
Okay, he's within 3 of me, so he has to move towards me unless you step first.
Oh, okay.
Right, because I have a 3-inch melee.
Step 1.
Okay, so he goes inside of 3.
And
so it'll cost you 1. And use 2 for my hero.
Yeah, to give them to the Baron.
Okay. Well then, it's fight the Baron, fight the world. I'm tempted to not fight the Baron. And fight the Friar, I think. Yeah, we're going to try and fight the Friar. Use my jog, which is 4. Yeah. And head over to here. I have to move closer to you, and I am. I just want to also be within 3 of him. Swing! I'm melee 6 against your melee, I believe, 4 on the Friar. These are my options. I have to pick one to try and do a... Yeah, do a thing with. I'm going to try this one, I think. This one. Alright, and so we get. So you did a low guard. I did a high guard, and nothing happens. Kept you at a melee range, so I know you're going to try and probably play guards on me in the future because you can't do anything that causes damage. So I'm going to spend another one. We'll go again. I've kept you outside of melee range, which means that I should anticipate you trying to use guards. All right, so my options again. I'm going to play that. Reveal at the same time. High guard. I'm doing a thrust. So a thrust against a high guard. You did high guard. It does 0 damage, and I take, no wait. Yeah, I take no damage. And that's thrust, 0 and none. So if I had any bonus damage from a piercing attack, which I don't think, unless I charge first, I don't do any bonuses. It wasn't my first melee attack. My first melee attack had +2 damage. Probably should have done was move into the middle there and do my noxious cloud, which just does 2 damage to everybody. So my options once again. Let's try some of that. We'll reveal at the same time. You did a high guard. I did a thrust. So high guard against thrust, I do 0 damage again. This one, let's go for it. Try and get him. All right, so we're gonna try this time. Reveal at the same time. I'm doing a rising attack against a low guard. So against low guard, you get to do a follow-up now. But because you're outside melee range, any follow-up that does damage won't work, unfortunately. Doug's done.
I could start doing that.
Oh, I see. So if you have a, he has a signature move where if you're damaged, you can regain wounds off of your signature. Here comes the Baron. So now the Baron is within 4 inches of the Squire, so he gets a bonus 2 to his melee stat. So when he's active, it's melee stat +2. He has 9 dice. He gets nine cards. He literally gets half the deck. There's mine. I'm doing a falling swing to my rising attack. So
I'm gonna do my signature move with this.
So I take 3 to your 1, and you're gonna replace falling swing with your signature move, which is Master Strike. So Master Strike becomes, against a rising attack, 3 damage, the maximum amount of damage you could possibly do. Actually, it's the same amount of damage. Slicing damage for 3 total, and you're going to take, from rising attack, 1. Yeah.
And I do +1 on
slicing damage. Okay. 4 damage to me total, and then I'm doing back to you. I'm doing it's normal damage, so it's not magical. 0 because your plate mail reduces to 0. Or sorry, you're -2 to non-magical damage. Is half healthed by the slicing blow. And so you've got 3 more chances of this because you're loaded up with energy. Let's drop that. And rising attack against a high guard. So I deal nothing and take 2. And 3 more. Oh my god, okay. So you managed to drop in 2 criticals there because you did rising attack against a high guard. That's going to be 6 damage, and Doug is
+1.
dead. +1, but I'm going to play ninja reactions once per game. Reduce all damage to 0. 2 more goes at this. All right, so there's the hand. We're going to go with that. And Jason has a lot more reading to do than me. Boss, we do it again. Thrust against low guard. So I deal nothing and take 1. It's piercing, so it's -1 for my shield. One for your sword, so I take 2 overall, down to 2. Energy on Fancy Hat. He's all loaded up. All right, that's what we got. Go for it. What do you got? Falling Swing. High guard. No damage.
I will use the Master Strike.
No damage. And I get to go again. A Rising Attack, which against a Falling Swing does 1 damage. So now that would only do 1 damage because I only do 1 damage with it, but I'm going to turn it into an Ankle Biter, which is my upgrade for Rising Attack, which turns into 3 damage. So your plate mail reduces by 2, but you still take 1 as the dog bites you. And that's all your energies, unless you want to jog somewhere, but you got to move closer to me. Away from Vicious Midget and into base to base to not get midgeted with the midjitsu. Use what we brought you for. So, time to heal Doug. On healing within 8 inches, and I get to draw 5 arcane cards to your 6. I'm gonna put a card down, and I'm gonna say it is a 1 blue.
Bluffing.
I was not. So I get to do it again. I am not gonna do it again. It's +1, so it's gonna be 2 health and goes to 4 damage total. And Bobby's gonna do it again. So we deal it again. Place a card. 2 blue.
Bluff.
It was not. 2 blue.
Bluff.
It was not. I heal 6 damage and go to full. He's back in a big way. So I still have a jog. I'm just gonna. I have a 2-inch jog because I'm holding stuff right now. I'm just gonna dirtle in between these things. This is gonna go. Oh, he's coming to pugilate. I have a 3-inch melee, so if you move, you have to move towards me. But you're.
I just have to be within 2 inches.
Yeah, within 2 inches. Yeah, you're fine. Attack. Your melee's 4. Goes to 6 to my 4.
No, he's not a noble. He's just.
That's right. He's just a cleric. That. High guard.
Also high guard.
Nah, nothing happens. Right, well, let's put that in. And Falling Swing against High Guard. So we're both reduced to 0, but I get to do another card. Actually, both my cards do slicing damage, and I reduce slicing damage to 0. No point in me playing a follow-up because I can't hurt you with my lance. Now what's happening is that both Doug and Flora Flavius are coming into the limitations of their weapons. Flavius can only do impact damage, so he has to pick impact cards, which means I know my high guards and low guards both work. And then yours, I can't do slicing damage, and I'm just getting dickered by the cards here. That, you're gonna do a high guard. I'm gonna do a thrust, where I deal 0 and suffer dash. So if I had any bonuses, I could upgrade it, but I don't have any bonuses. that was a whole lot of nothing right there. That was when Doug went in on Flavius before and nothing happened. Well, I can walk 6 with Grub. That's about all I can do, because he only goes 2 right now. Just gonna walk over here, be next to the boy. To you, it's all flintlock. Come stab. Oh, jeez. 1-inch melee, so he's got to get close, but he does extra damage on piercing. He's got a dagger, and he's within 4. You get a little bit further. You can pre-measure. Just go like that. 2 bonus cards, because soldiers are inspired by my hero from the boy. So you're going to have 3 plus 4 is 7? +1, sorry, because you're a soldier. So the nobles get +2, don't they?
Yeah.
So you get 6 total, and I get 4 for Doug. All right, put that down against that. What you got? Ha! Sweeping cut against sweeping cut. So we both do 0 to each other. And it's slashing. I have no bonuses to slashing. Actually, I get reduced to 0. And you also get reduced to 0. You got 2 energy left. You're gonna stab me again?
Yep.
As we do. That.
Bam.
Bam! Falling Swing. Ah, no, low guard. So I take 2 and deal nothing. Is it?
Impact or slicing?
Yep, you pick. I have resistance against not slicing. Stay slicing.
Not slicing.
Okay. 1, going again. Yeah. Also Falling Swing. So I'm gonna do impact. We both do 0. And we do 0 again.
I do different.
No, 0 goes to 0.
0.
0 plus 0 is still 0. Flintlock done, so it's just the viciousest of midgets. He can walk 4. It's not gonna quite get him there. It's gonna make 1 step. And he's gonna stab the kid. So I get 7 to your 3. Dropping that. You're doing a thrust. I'm doing a sweeping cut. So we both do 0. 0. We'll go again. Last energy. Gonna play that. And you do a falling swing. I do a thrust. So I do 2 damage. You do 0, but I'm gonna up it to 6. So I'm gonna critical it out twice. Down to 2. Eric's hurt. Excellent. He's very, very vicious. And if I had any damage on me, I would heal a damage point from doing damage because I'm vicious. Sadly, it wasn't the first melee attack, or it would have done +2. Oh no! Did we do 0 to each other with the first one? You would actually take it to +2 for my raiding party. It was thrust versus sweeping cut, so you suffered 0 in that case, but you would have had +2 from raiding party. And that actually finishes him off. Well, okay then. So it's a new turn. 3. Let's see who's going first. You have a pass now. And you're definitely going first, because again, I can't roll 7. I think I'm going to get murdered by the Baron right now.
That's possible.
So you have 7 now, because the big
4.
fella's gone. Rising attack. Damn it, high guard. So rising attack works on me. I take 2. I take 6 and I'm dead. So what is the damage type? You just say impact.
Impact.
Okay, there you go. So he's dead. Jog and 1 energy left. I don't think you're engaging anybody. And you go fight the midget? Fight the midget.
Stay outside 1 inch.
Makes sense. Get you back. I got 4. Oh, sorry, 5 actually for the vicious midget. I get 1 more. And that. Reveal. Falling swing. Damn it! Low guard. My timing's terrible. So, falling swing against low guard. I deal nothing and take 2. Bonuses to what type of damage is that going to be? Actually, it doesn't even matter because I reduce it all by 2. So
you reduce everything by 2?
Yes. Do you do any bonuses?
Slicing or piercing. So I'll take slicing.
Take slicing. So you're 5. So take 3 total. 2. All right. Well, I guess the midget has to go fight. So we're gonna walk over here. We don't want to get near the squire, and we're gonna stab Flintlock. All right. What you got? Thrust. I'm doing rising attack. So I deal 1 and suffer 2. And then I'm going to do +2 damage to 3 because of raiding party. Reduce the 2 to 0 because of my plate armor. +1 to piercing damage, don't you?
Yes.
So I do take 1, but then I cause damage, so I heal 1. So it just nets it. Vicious. I'm going to stab you again.
Just 1.
Falling swing against thrust. I do 2, you take 0. And I'm going to double that up to 4 with a critical. 1 left. All right. Because I'm vicious. And then I'm going to stab Flintlock again. We can finish him off. Heal. Falling swing against thrust. Once again. So I do 2. And I'm going to make it 4. And then 1 more for 6. 6 damage. And he dead. There's 1 more. And he's done. It's over to you. The Friar. Gotta go slam. Yeah.
Staying outside 1.
Makes sense. You get 4 to 6. And I get 5. Swing. High guard. So you get no damage, and I take no damage, but I get to do a follow-up with rising attack, but I'm going to replace it with Vicious Midget's Groin Tickler upgrade. So it becomes, I'm not in range, so I do 0 damage, but end step effect, you may place this model anywhere in base contact with the enemy model. So what happens, I run between your legs, I end up over here. Hurrah! So now we're engaging each other. Pocket sand. He runs between your legs.
Smoke bomb.
Smoke bomb. All right, you can attack me again?
Yeah.
All right, so it's 5 to your 6. And you're doing a falling swing to my thrust. So you do damage to me. You do 1 because it's 0, +1 because you're doing bludgeoning, I assume. Mm-hmm. Or impact, rather. And then I do 2. And you're going to critical that to make it 2. I'm going to do 4. From critically my thrust as well. So I take 2, but my plate reduces it to 0. Your thrust will cause 4 to you. Damage, because I'm vicious. 1 more, 6 to 5. Falling swing, sweeping cut. So I take 3, 4 because of your thing, unless you want to critical it. So I take 4 goes to 5, so I take 3, but I'm gonna triple up sweeping cut so that you take
9?
No, 6. So I take 9 total because you did sweeping cut. So you deal 9, 10, minus 2 is 6. So I just die. And then you also take 6 from my critical. Just explode. Thump me into the ground and then fall on my sword, I guess, as you go down. So I am 4 inches away. So I got a jog plus a step to get into melee with you with Grub. and we're gonna fight. But the cool thing is I have an enchanted Secator, so all my melee damage generated by this model counts as magical instead of the listed type. So I do magic damage to you, which gets around your plate armor. This card's to your 5, because I'm the active model. You do thrust, and I do a rising attack. So you deal 2 to me, and I do 1. And 3 total, so I'm gonna take 3 damage. I am gonna critical you though, with an extra rising attack. Upgrade them to be insatiable hungers instead of rising attack. So all of these against thrusts become 3 damage. So I do 6 damage total, and I can't be blocked by your armor. You die?
Yeah.
6 damage kills you? Okay, you get eaten. And then I guess we do, I get all my health back, so I jog, and then pick this thing up. And that's game. So you go into the game, the Dominion taking home the Moonstones. Now, this is definitely a crunchy game. One of the things that we played a game like off camera first, just to familiarize ourselves with the rules before we did the Let's Play. One of the things that we started doing later on was recognizing when to play the different melee maneuvers. Because you need to know what's your preferred type of damage on your opponent to try and guess which one he's gonna do. And then what's your preferred attack step? Like what's the one that you have like a signature move on? And then cross-referencing that in your brain over and over again for every melee attack to try and figure out what the best option is in your hand. If you like that level of crunch in a game, this is definitely a game for you. The combat is probably the crunchiest part. The resolution for the arcane stuff is pretty quick. That was that one we picked up real fast.
Yep.
But the meat of this is memorizing your attack stuff. how best do you attack people to inflict the maximum results? And then increasing the hand size is all about trying to get those critical hits. So like when he was active with Eric, you saw that Baron Von Fancy Hat was just a killing machine because he would almost always have like doubles or triples or something in his hand.
Yep.
And he didn't have any bad attack type. He only had better ones. Like you're better at slashing and piercing, but you don't get any downsides for having impact. Whereas Flavius really feels like he's very predictable in how he moves. He's almost always going to do a falling or a rising because he's just like swinging the club up and down. He only can do impact damage, or he's going to do a block. So when Vicious Midget and him killed each other, it was because I didn't have anything in my hand that could block a falling strike or I didn't have a low guard or a high guard, which meant that I knew I was going to take it. So I was just trying to do the max amount of damage I could afterwards.
Oh, and you did.
And I did, yes. And I got lucky too because I managed to get a rising attack in my hand. Or no, I managed to get one where we countered each other and I got a follow-up move. So I was able to do that signature move where I run between your legs. Yeah. And now I'm in melee range all of a sudden, which was huge. Otherwise, you would have just killed me and I would have died. So if you're looking for a character-driven game with lots of comboing, if this is your type, if you like Malifaux or if you like those very crunchy, individual, this is a person that adds this ability to my warband. This is definitely the game for you. And if you're a painter, these models are gorgeous. And I highly recommend their just sort of whimsical craziness. I sent Mike from Goblin King Studios pictures of this stuff the other day because he hadn't seen it before. And he's like, why did I not know that this existed? And he freaked out over all the fairies and gnomes and stuff. So I hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you for more Moonstone in the future. Big thanks for watching. Big thanks for Jay coming and helping me out. Next time I'm Ash. Have a good day. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to support the channel, of course, like and subscribe and hit the little bell below so you get notifications when I post future content. I do post stuff 7 days a week. If you want to support the channel further, you can, of course, buy a t-shirt through Spreadshirts, buy a measuring gauge or objective markers from Death Ray Designs, or, of course, most importantly, there is Patreon. Patreon is what makes all this possible, keeps the lights on, pays for the studio costs, pays for the equipment, model costs, and everything else, and most importantly, puts food in my kids' bellies and a roof over their heads. Big thanks to everyone, past, future, who supported me. I do this stuff because of you guys, and of course, I will continue doing it as long as I can.